Inner Peace Better Health, where we uncover the deep truths that lead to real, lasting peace within. I'm your host, Saima, and today's guest is Nedjma Belaid, modern priestess, clinical hypnotherapist, NLP master practitioner, and founder of With Kind Awareness. After a career as a pharmacist and Tony Robbins coach, Najima stepped into her true calling, empowering women to stop dimming their light, embrace their authentic selves, and awaken the goddess within. And tonight, she shares how being your true self is not just a concept, it's a gateway to profound peace, joy, and fulfillment. So, Najima, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, so am I. So, Najima, let's start with you guide people to reconnect with their true selves, right? So, why is authenticity the foundation for inner peace?
That's an excellent question. I would say for me in my personal journey, I come from having generalized anxiety disorder and struggling with a lot of people pleasing. And so there was a lot of that anxiety and lack of inner peace coming from wanting to always meet other people's expectations, fitting in, ticking the boxes, making sure that I would be accepted in certain groups and environments, that I would be good enough to be welcomed in these groups and not be rejected. So there was a lot of anxiety that I would put on myself and assessing others. Oh, okay. Are they liking what I'm saying? Am I too loud or not enough? Or should I speak up more? Or should I laugh at their joke right now? Or, right? So all this assessing is so taking of our mental capacities. And it ended up being so draining. So, really, my journey to overcome people pleasing and generalized anxiety disorder, and eventually actually isolation, because it was so demanding and draining to be around people. And there was so much reactivity from my part when I felt like maybe they didn't like my true self, quote unquote, or what I was kind of showing them. And then I had to keep a persona and a mask. So, really learning to unleash my true self, loving myself, embracing myself has been the most healing journey I've been on, and has allowed me actually to build more meaningful connections and relationships with people coming from my true self as opposed to coming from that performing self.
Mm-hmm. So, was there like a time when you personally struggled with hiding your true self, and what changed at that time?
Well, I come from a family, my two parents are from different religions. And they got eventually divorced. So really from a young age, there was that pressure to belong to a certain religion. So my mom didn't really care that much. My dad cared. So, that made sense. As a 5-year-old, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'll just be dad's religion without giving it any thought. And so that was kind of like planted the seed of people pleasing. And as I grew older, really what happened is that I wasn't really connecting necessarily with that religion. But I kept pretending because I wanted to still be accepted. I felt like that was needed. And there was some community expectations as well on his side that needed to be met. And so I became a master chameleon. I was always kind of adapting myself to different situations, not just in the family, but I took that also in friendships. So I became really, really unhappy. And there was a time actually in college where I was in my dorm and something had happened that I realized that there was not going to be it was not going to be possible for me to be accepted and approved of by both my parents at the same time. And I don't know about you, but it's kind of a deep-seated desire for any child to feel like they can be loved and accepted by both their parents. But because they had such different cultural perspectives and beliefs and religiously, that was not going to be able to be the case. And so that took me down a really dark place, I would say. But what got me out of it was the thought that, hey, well, hold on. I'm trying to please everyone else all the time. It's me I'm not pleasing. Plus, it's not even working. So that's really a moment that I realized like things had to change.
Najima, that realization that peace comes from being not performing, it's so powerful, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, you talk about like the secret. undressing journey, right? So, what does it mean to, undress spiritually and emotionally, and how does it free us?
Yes. So the sacred undressing journey is really what I didn't know I had embarked on that journey. So just right now, looking back, I realized, wow, that's really what I did because there's this thinking sometimes that we need to just learn to be more this or more compliant or more patient or but it's really coming from the perspective that our true self, our true essence is already in there. If you look at a baby who's born, you don't say, "Oh, that's a girl and here's a people pleaser or here's a, a perfectionist." So that's just that stuff that's learned along the way. There's conditioning, beliefs, cultural perspectives, identities that we pick up along the way, and suddenly we say, I am these things. But are we really? And the sacred undressing journey is really to start realizing, okay, what are some of the layers that I am putting on that I keep wearing that are not me and are actually limiting and dimming my light, my goddess within, like the true essence of who I am. And if I start unleashing these, a little bit like you would peel an onion, can I start to reveal even more of my light and feel freer and more, feeling more fulfillment and joy, and yes, of course, all the emotions of the rainbow because we're human beings. But then I can access levels of myself that feels more embodied, that feels more like I don't have this silent ache. Like it's like I'm not happy or unhappy, but I did everything that people say to do just to have a successful life. But why am I not just like enthralled with that? What's going on? And that in my opinion, that's the call of the soul that wants to be more expressed and doesn't want to just be suppressed under all these layers of fitting in.
Hmm? So, is there like a first step someone can take if they're afraid of being that vulnerable?
That's interesting. Vulnerability is definitely a strength and it can be developed, but it doesn't necessarily need to be vulnerable to start. Really,
Hmm.
the first step, like the pillar and the anchor point is to start with self-awareness. And so along this sacred undressing journey, I talk about the sacred four archetypes, which are the queen, the warrioress, the lover, and the mystic. And they each hold a key to unlock a certain power of all of us. And the starting point is the queen. And the queen is really kind of that internal part of us that if you think about a sovereign, or a queen in her castle, she cannot make great decisions if she's always looking at other people on what she should do, if she's reactive left and right to what people do or don't do. Right? She's not going to be a powerful sovereign if she doesn't honor herself, if she doesn't trust herself or lead herself. So the initial part is very internal. So it doesn't have to be vulnerable in the sense that it can be done within yourself. So I would say if you're getting started, start questioning. Start questioning, like, okay, when I say I am this, or when something triggers me, what meaning am I putting to this? Right. So if we go away from the external focus and come back to the internal focus and starting to take responsibility for how we feel and respond, and that will start to give us an idea of what might be some of those layers that we'd like to undress.
And that permission, that vulnerability, secret, not weak, is so liberating, no?
It is indeed. Yeah. Being vulnerable is such a strength because if you think about what's the opposite of being vulnerable is being armored up. If I have a shield and armor and I'm keeping people at arm's length, it creates that separation, like me versus them, and wanting to protect. But it's really, why are you needing to protect? Perhaps there's this sense that I am powerless underneath, right? You're in a place where you're able to be heard by others. But if you build that inner strength and you're not so reactive to what people say or do, then you don't need the armor. And you can have an open heart and love fearlessly.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you transitioned from pharmacist to modern priestess, and that's a huge shift, no doubt. So, what did stepping into your full truth teach you about courage and inner peace?
Mm, that's a great question. Yes, I think definitely leaving my pharmacist career behind would not have been possible if I was still very much focused on doing everything that was correct for people to approve of me, to be culturally, accepted and approved of. There is something about saying, "Oh, I'm a pharmacist." That label, right? It's kind of like high education, and people would react to me like, "Oh, you're a pharmacist. Wow." And so it took a lot of courage for me to leave that identity behind and really step into the truth of me that was at the time, which was my passion for helping women, my passion for coaching and self-development, because I saw that as that was my contribution, not just to me, but to the world. And so it definitely took courage to let go of a comfortable certainty. And that's something that could really open the door for me, like in society, like people like approving of me to like, I'm a coach. And what does that mean? And people does not necessarily have a concept. And then modern priestess, even less of a concept, in depending on the circle you're in. And so that definitely took courage. And why connecting to the inner peace part that you're mentioning, I truly believe that the more aligned you are with your truth, the more peaceful it will be. It might not feel that way at first because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's just by definition what it is. In the comfort zone, it's comfortable. And if you get out of the comfort zone, there is uncertainty, there is fear. But eventually, staying in the comfort zone, if the comfort zone is not you, if the comfort zone is perfectionism or people pleasing or not really being yourself, eventually it starts to kind of like kill your spirit slowly. And that creates a lot of anxiety.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And that truth, that transformation often asks us to leave before we feel ready. It's deeply inspiring, Najma.
Yes, definitely. Very inspiring.
Hmm? Now, for listeners who feel like they have been dimming their light for too long, what's one act of kindness or awareness they can offer themselves today to begin, shining again?
Yes. So I would say if you feel like you've been dimming your light for too long, look for one small thing, like not like that big thing, like, oh my gosh, that's going to make a biggest difference. You can go for that if you feel like I'm ready, go for it. But sometimes it's just starting with that simple thing. It might be, you know, depending on the person, it might be, I'm going to share my opinion today with my coworkers when they talk about a subject I disagree, as opposed to being like, yes, and just kind of nodding my head. Or maybe it's going to be something with regards with your partner and saying, you know what, I don't want to watch that movie. I want to watch something else. It could be like the simplest thing, but just looking for a way to start building the muscle or what it's going to mean for you to stop dimming your light. So I would start by looking at like, how have I been dimming my light? And what would they look for me to stop doing that? And look for the smallest little thing you can do to start building some success. Like, oh, I did this small thing. And how did that feel? And other people might not always be welcoming that just because they're not used to it. So being okay with the fact that other people might be like, oh, that's weird. But that's why we're starting small.
The- So, is there a mantra or daily practice you would love to recommend?
Daily practice, I like to tailor my approaches. I don't like to necessarily prescribe the same thing for everybody, but I would say journaling probably across the board is very, very beneficial. So if you can make a bit of a sacred time, a sacred space for you, whether it's in the morning, at lunch break, or in the evening, whenever you can have some time for yourself to just start to journal how you feel, how the day went to start. And because that's what's going to build and increase the self-awareness. And then you can start adding some questions to ponder. But at first, if you're not already journaling, I would say just spending the time each day. It could be just a few minutes. You can say, I'm going to write a half a page and then increase from there because it's going to help you connect back with yourself and more you're going to get used to connecting with your truth. And if the more connected you are with your truth, the more you can come from that.
Hmm. That message that the journey back to the true self starts with tenderness is so heart opening.
It is really heart opening. And we also need to be kind with ourselves because these patterns, let's say people pleasing or perfectionism or anxiety, all these types of beliefs and coping behaviors we've picked up along the way, we've most likely done them for a very long time. And so it just became a habit. And so as we're undressing, as we're spending some time with ourselves and learning to see what are might be some of those layers that I want to let go of, it will happen that we'll go back to our old patterns. And so we just need to keep observing and making doing the inner work and being kind with ourselves and not utilizing this practice as another way to be hard on ourselves. Because I know a lot of people do that, and I've done that on my journey. Like, oh, I should know better. I learned that in a course. Why am I not doing it perfectly? Well, hold on. Right? We need to rewire some of these things, and it might take a little bit of time, and it's okay.
Oh, that completely makes sense. Nedjma Belaid, you reminded us that the greatest act of healing and of courage is to stand fully as who we are. Inner peace isn't found outside, it's revealed when we shed the layers and shine from within. And for all our listeners, here's a spark. Stop hiding, start shining. Your true self is a gateway to everything you are.